Hi, and welcome to At-Home Art Lessons with the Art Groupies. The Art Groupies help us develop great habits of art. This guy is going to be the art groupie that we work with today. His name is Stretch. Stretch is going to be the art groupie that we need to experiment and play and to take a risk, because this famous artist did just that. Claude Monet is one of my favorite Impressionist artists, and Monet was a master of painting with light. We are going to be inspired today by his water lilies. Now, Monet's water lilies are magical and serene. And how does he create this feeling? Well, he uses lots of colors and short brush strokes. So Claude Monet is our famous artist. We're going to first start this project by using Pastel Resist with watercolor. Pastels are made of oil. If you have no pastels, you can also use a crown. A crown is made of wax, but you get the same type of resist. We're going to start our water lilies by creating a piece using space, the element of space. We're going to start up here in the foreground, and we want to make our first lily about the size of our fist. And we create a lily by making the simple letter U. Then we come in with two lines, and then we put a triangle to connect the lines, making the letter W. So a U, and then slowly make the W. Now that's the front part of my lily. I'm going to go ahead and do some more triangles or a zigzag line to make the back of my lily. Now I'm going to switch pastels and go to a lighter color. So I started with a red. Now I'm going to go with a tint of red and use pink. The second lily I'm going to create is not going to be as big, because I'm trying to show space. So I'm going further into space by showing color, by making it lighter, and making my lilies smaller. And again, I'm going to start with that letter U. And make that W. And then the other line. I'm going to color in my pastels with some white. And as you color it in, it grabs the outline color and blends it and makes that beautiful blurry type feel that you get from Monet's paintings. Just using a very simple white pastel, coloring them in and creating that blurry appearance. And Claude Monet was known for going outside and doing his paintings, and was impressed with the way the light hit the objects and how the different light changed the objects with the different time of the day or different weather. So now I'm going to draw the lily pads. The lily pads are a flat oval shape with a little bit of a dip in the side to create that lily pad. You don't need to worry about coloring those in, because we can use the watercolor. So we used shape to create our lilies. Now I'm going to create texture in the water by using line. And again, I'm going to use my oil pastels, and I'm going to make my lines move around the paper. I'm also going to think about those short little brush strokes that Claude Monet used in his art. And I'm also going to use a variety of colors. And I'm going to make it appear that the water is moving, showing texture. And I'm just using line. And I'm pressing hard because it does not come out well, the oil resist, if you don't press hard. And you can overlap some of these lines all the way around. I use some green in here. Voila. I think I have enough lines showing the movement and texture of the water. Now I'm going to start with my watercolor. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wet the paper. This is going to create a wet into wet technique, which will make the water blend and appear more natural. So wet into wet. And I'm not going to wet the whole paper. I'm going to wet it in sections as I work. Because by the time I get to the one section, it'll probably be dry. So I'm just going to use those dabby little short brush strokes. I'm going to use different colors because that's how he created these beautiful, serene, and magical waterscapes with his water lilies. And again, I'm using a variety of colors. I'm using different blues. I've just used some purples. And I'm dabbing using that little short brush stroke. Okay, I'm going to move on. Wet some more of my paper. Now another technique to give it an even more magical feel, you can use just everyday regular table salt. But the trick of this is it needs to be sprinkled on while the paint is wet. Now the magic happens as it dries. So while I'm working, doing my short little brush strokes, the salt is doing its magic. And it creates a beautiful, magical feel. I'm going to add some greens, some turquoise to my beautiful water lilies with my famous artist, Claude Monet. So I'm going to move on to the next spot. Again, this is called wet into wet. I'm going to paint my lily pads last because right now I'm just trying to get my background painted. And as you get closer to the foreground, just like we did with the lily, your colors should become a little bit darker, more paint instead of lots of water. Because we're getting closer to the foreground, and things that are close up when we're trying to show perspective, things are richer and darker in color. Okay, so before I move on some more, I'm going to sprinkle that table salt on to get that magical feel. And I'm going to wet the final portion of my painting. Final color. Remember, it's closer up to the front so you can get a little bit deeper with your color choices. These deep purples. And again, I'm still using that dabby brush stroke that he is so known for. You don't have to worry about covering up those lines because it's made of oil, or if you're using the crowns, it's made of wax and it shouldn't cover it up if you pressed hard enough. So voila, there I created my water. Now I'm going to paint my lilies. And again, same type of idea, the darker color in the front. And again, if your color blends into the background, that's fine. That's creating that impression of light and Claude Monet's impression of his water lilies. I'm going to switch over to a lighter green, showing that space by having the color get a little bit lighter as we move further into the background. The last color I'll use is some yellow, mixed in a little bit with my green to give an even lighter color. So voila, I'll finish off with that salt while my paint is still wet. Let the magic be created. So now what I'm going to do is I left this space available over here to maybe cut out a water lily or two. And what I've done is I used paper that I painted on and added a little bit of glitter to give that, again, magical feel. So with my scissors, I'm going to cut that U shape out. I made him a little too big. And the water lily does not need to have a lily pad, because sometimes the water lilies just come up from beneath the surface. Make that darker one in front. Now, to get an even more magical feeling, you can also do some paint splattering. And you can do that by using tempera white paint, getting it nice and wet on your paintbrush. And just as the painting is wet, I don't think I put enough water on there, just tap the paintbrush and it gives that beautiful splattery, magical feel. So there you have it. My famous artist, Claude Monet, and his water lilies. I hope you had fun creating that magical, serene feeling, and you experimented with lots of color in our art groupie stretch. So thanks for joining me, making your impressionist water lilies. See you later.